everybody, Jennifer here with the Equine Healing Collaborative. Welcome to Clinical Thursdays. This is where we share with you guys what it is that we do here and all about equine-assisted psychotherapy. This is group clinical supervision where clinicians come to learn about equine-assisted psychotherapy, as well as staff and talk about their clients and what it is that they need to do. So today I have invited Bocelli, who is one of my very, very favorite, don't tell anybody, therapy horses here at the Equine Healing Collaborative. He is probably one of the kindest, most gentle souls I've ever met, and he really, really loves his work here at the EHC. As you can see, he's quite a beautiful horse, and so his history is that he was actually a show horse for a really long time. We just found this out about him. He was just diagnosed with a pretty significant dental problem, which explains a lot of the behavior that he was having when he was being ridden. So when he was being ridden, he would bolt and take off. And so in large part, the dental issues that he was having probably led to a significant amount of pain. And so actually just quite a few months ago, we just had surgery done on him. And so he is actually doing so much better. His weight looks so much better, and you can tell that he feels so much better. He's so much more relaxed and just so much happier now that he's had his teeth removed, the teeth that he needed removed. And you can also see there he has a little bit of tongue action that takes place and happens. Anyways, for sure, therapy is definitely this horse's jam. He absolutely loves it. And so today what we're going to be doing with him is an intervention called resource tapping. And essentially resource tapping is, kind of like a form of, tapping or EMDR, or, there's a lot of different interventions that are out there that kind of like ask the client to engage the right side and the left side of the body. And so resource tapping is one of those. We also make sure that what we are doing here clinically is that we meet clients where they are. So not only do we meet clients where they are, we also meet horses where they are. So it does not matter what's happening for the horse. We work around the horse's presentation, idiosyncrasies, personality, and it's the exact same thing when we're working with clients. So we typically don't look to specifically change maybe a way of thinking or change specific behaviors. Typically what we look to do is we actually look to add on to those thoughts, those behaviors, whatever it might be. And so this intervention is just amazing for that, because it allows clients to be able to hold the space for maybe things that they might view as that are maladaptive or not helpful in their lives. And then we can add on to that, and we can actually put something else on that's actually helpful to them. So that's what we're going to be doing today. And Liam over here has agreed to be my client tonight.
Looking forward to it.
Yay, yay. And then you can see too, all of our group members are here. So these are all clinicians who work here at the Equine Healing Collaborative. All right, so Liam, what I'm going to be asking you to do is I'm going to be asking you to think about something. Maybe it's a thought or maybe a behavior, something that you have found to be kind of like troubling or problematic in your life.
Okay.
So I know that and I know we're role playing, but I know that you've talked about, having some struggles with like depression.
Sure.
And so maybe it can be like a symptom of depression that you find particularly troubling. Okay. And I just want you to kind of like think about and identify like one thing, okay? And I'm gonna have you just kind of leave that to yourself, and I'm gonna let you think about that for a second. And in the meantime, I'm gonna show you a couple of different places that you can stand when you're working with Bocelli. Great. So I want you to just make sure that wherever you are with this horse, that you're feeling actually really comfortable. There's two ways that you can tap. So you can tap standing at the side of the horse, or you can also stand directly behind the horse.
Okay.
A lot of people are really reluctant to stand directly behind a horse because they have a fear that they're being kicked. And we hear this myth over and over again when it comes to horses, is that you should never stand behind a horse. And actually that's not true, because it implies that there are safer places to stand around a horse where you wouldn't get kicked. And in reality, if Bocelli wanted to reach this hind leg up here and kick me in the head, he could do it, and it would like be nothing. You guys wouldn't even see it, you wouldn't even notice. All you would see is me flat on the ground. So if he wanted to do that, that is absolutely something he could do. The other thing is that as far as like the proximity and closeness to horses, actually, believe it or not, the closer you are to the horse, the safer you are, because if the horse was to kick for any reason, there's no capacity or ability for him to get a lot of momentum. So if I was, for example, standing right here and he was to lift up his leg and kick, his leg wouldn't go anywhere. However, if I was standing here, he would have lots of room to create some space and some momentum, and so I would very easily go flying, okay? So just always be mindful of that as well. So the two places, again, that you are welcome to stand, and I'm going to invite you to just stand wherever you feel the most comfortable, is you can stand directly behind him here, like what I'm doing, or you can stand here at his side and just have one hand on each wither.
Great.
And so what I'm going to have you do is we're going to come up with a phrase for you. So we're going to talk about like whatever the problem is, and then I'm going to come up with an addition to that problem, and then I'm going to have you tap the horse while simultaneously basically saying the mantra over and over and over again. So we're going to create a mantra together.
Great.
Okay?
Awesome.
So what is your phrase that you have?
I'm thinking about rest is okay. I think I have a hard time when I'm feeling unmotivated.
Okay.
Just getting out of bed and moving into my day.
Okay.
So I'm trying to think of a phrase or a motto that would help me kind of motivate for the day, you know, and get after it.
Okay.
You know, or accept that maybe it's okay to have a day off.
Okay. Okay. So would you say that there's like a message that you say to yourself, like if you don't get up and get going, or if you don't do all of the things that you think? What's the phrase?
Usually, I guess it would just be like rest is good. Rest is important.
Okay.
You know.
So you tell yourself rest is important on days that you don't do anything.
That I feel like
Okay.
maybe hard to motivate.
Okay. And but there's nothing that's like that comes up for you, like you don't have any feelings of insecurity around that?
I think I usually feel guilty, but that's
Okay.
kind of something I remind myself is that hey, rest is part of the human experience, you know.
Yeah.
And taking a day is important.
Okay.
You know, but I there's obviously some shame and guilt in that. You know?
Okay. All right. So it would be safe to say that on the days that you do rest, that you have a sense or a feeling of shame and guilt.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, totally.
All right. And like, what is the shame? Like, what is that?
I feel like I'm missing out, or I'm not being as productive as I could be, or like seizing the day.
Okay.
You know?
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's where I get hung up.
Okay. All right. Well, that's some good information for me to work with. Okay. So I think what I'd like your mantra to be is, I think I'm going to have your mantra be, even though I am not productive, so even though I am not productive, I am still worthy of rest.
Okay.
So even though I am not
I'm
productive, I am still worthy
I'm
of
still
rest.
worthy of rest.
Okay. So we're going to try that. I'm going to say it one more time, and I just want you to kind of repeat after me.
Cool.
Even though
I
am not productive,
am not productive,
I am still worthy of rest.
I am still worthy of rest.
Okay.
Okay.
And I want you to see if you can kind of get a little bit of a rhythm there.
Okay.
Okay. Do you have any idea where you'd like to stand?
I think I feel most comfortable at the side. That's
Okay.
Okay. Yeah,
Perfect.
and you said right by the withers, right?
Yeah. And I want you to just go ahead and you can just turn your chest in the same direction as his head.
Oh,
And you
okay.
can just soften your knees a little bit.
Great. Yeah, get a little
And
bounce
just
to 'em.
relax. And one hand is going to be on each side of the wither. Okay, perfect. And now what I'd like you to do is I just want you to start tapping and saying your mantra. You don't have to say it out loud.
Okay.
You can keep that inside. So you're going to say, even though.
Okay. Even though.
There you go. Liam, I'm going to have you go ahead and just take a nice deep breath, and you can just go ahead and step back from botch. Okay. All right, tell me what that was like for you.
I think what I noticed at first was Botch's breathing and kind of getting in sync with that and recognizing that. So it's very tactile. And I think in some ways that made me feel more accepting of my own space and my own body. And when that's calling for rest or that's calling for time to relax, it's like, I don't know, maybe kind of introspective about my own breathing and when I need to take time for myself.
Yeah. So it's almost like his relaxation gave you permission to kind of slow things down and relax a little bit.
That would be a great way to put it.
Okay.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, all right. Did you notice anything, like any particular changes in him, like as you were doing this?
I think the breath is what I felt the most, and I could feel it deepen when I started tapping, and that started getting a little more rhythmic and consistent. So I hope I was relaxing for him. It felt that way. I felt kind of connected for that moment.
Okay, yeah, and really for horses, connection is just such an impactful kind of aspect of their lives, right? So they're herd animals, and so they're constantly looking to connect with those around them, and that includes on a physical level, but also on an emotional level, right? And it sounds like you felt very connected to him.
I would say so, yeah. It felt like we were, I don't know, just picking up on each other, And I think emotionally it definitely feels that way for me, yeah. And it's cool to know that he picks up on that.
Yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. All right, do you have any other thoughts or?
Oh, I mean, I see, engaging in this therapy and this practice is really just teaching me how therapeutic horses can be, and that interconnection, kind of the symbiotic relationship we have with them here. It's really pretty special.
No, yeah, it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. And just so you know, some of the things that I'm looking for typically when I'm doing this with a client is that I'm actually watching the horse. I'm not necessarily watching the client, although the client might feel like they're being watched. I'm actually watching the horse because the horse essentially is the one who kind of shares with me when you've dropped into the mantra, right? And so, like, at first when you started, he was a little bit kind of there, but as soon as the tapping, you could see like his head would really drop and his eyes got really soft. His tongue was like sticking out of his mouth, which is like a sign for him, especially that he's very relaxed. And you could see, like, as you tapped, and it was just a very short period of time, that as you tapped, he just became more and more comfortable and more relaxed.
Oh,
yeah.
I love it. Thank you, Baj.
Yeah, you can go tell him thank you.
Yeah,
So go on
sweet,
up to him and just give him some scratches on his
Thank you.
withers.
Yeah. Thank you, buddy. Yeah. Thank you. And thank you. This is great.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate
Thank you. For this horse in particular, he really like enjoys these very kind of like soft and quiet interventions. It's actually like his specialty is co-regulation. And I think, Liam, you were basically expressing that. And it's fascinating when you watch him work with other people. When you kind of say that mantra, and that second part is usually the part that is like the hardest part for clients to believe. So, like I've done this with, like, say, a mother who just is, parenting out of a lot of guilt, right? And one of the mantras that we came up with is, I think it was something like, even though I discipline my child, because in her mind that discipline felt like she was doing something bad to her kid. Her mantra was, even though I discipline my child, I am still a loving mother. And so it took her quite some time to drop into that and to actually believe that. And so sometimes what I'll do is, as I'm working with clients, if the horse is dysregulated, and especially if this horse is dysregulated, I know that the client absolutely does not believe that. We'll do the mantra for maybe about 10 to 15 seconds. I'll kind of pull the client away from the horse, I want to give him a break, right? But then also I want to kind of like talk about and process what's happening for the client. And so some of the things that I might go into with the client is I might ask them questions about like, tell me why this is hard for you to believe, or what is happening for you when you get to that part of the mantra. And so it just gives us an opportunity to kind of like really process and for maybe them to identify maybe even more negative thoughts that they have about themselves as a parent, right? And I'm here to just kind of hold space for that and to just listen and to be present and to not change it. I'm not going to change it, right? And that's where I think we can get really stuck with our clients is when we see a faulty thought and we think like, oh, I have to change that thought. And you know, if you think about it, if it was as simple if it was as simple as somebody just saying, just don't think that, we'd be out of a job, right? Like it's not that simple. And typically a lot of this messaging is rooted in like very, very kind of like deep-seated belief systems. And so when we just simply add on to it, what we're doing is we're allowing space for that deep-rooted belief system. And then we're just saying, and this can be true, right? So it's not one or the other. So even though I'm disciplining my child, right, discipline equals I don't love. And so what I'm saying is like, no, you can actually have space for both of those things, that you can discipline and you can love. You can feel guilt and shame around not doing anything and recognize that you do need to rest.
Absolutely.
So both of those things can actually exist in the same place. And people specifically with trauma have a very, very hard time wrapping their brains around a lot of the gray areas. And so what this does is it kind of gives clients an opportunity to experience what gray thinking is like, because you're taking kind of a black thought and you're matching it to a white thought and you're kind of melding them together in order to create this gray space. And you know, the reason that people who are traumatized in particular find that so unbearable is because of the fact that they just have a need to organize, right? They have a need to organize information because of the trauma that they've endured. And so this just gives people an opportunity to kind of like flip some of those thought patterns on their heads without shaming them, making them feel bad, trying to change a belief system that, again, in an hour of therapy or even with like 6 years of relationship under my belt, I'm not going to be able to change it. It just is not going to happen. And so again, this is just very useful for assisting clients and adding to. Yeah. All right, any comments or questions from the peanut gallery?
How would you address like a more like, I guess, like critical thought, like something, for example, like there's something wrong with me.
Yeah,
Which
no.
is like a really strong statement compared to like, oh, disciplining my kids.
I let that sit. I actually will let that sit because again, I find that to be such a profound thought that there's something wrong with me. Another one that I hear a lot with people who deal with significant trauma is I'm broken and there's something wrong with me. And so I can create space where I can say, even though I am broken, I am still worthy of love. Or even though there is something wrong with me, I don't know, I am kind. Or, you know, something that again, like that they can add on to. The other thing about this horse that is really, really good, specifically for folks who have that type of thinking, is that he actually is broken, like physically broken. And you can see right here, he has this spot on his body where his withers just kind of like drops off like a cliff right here. And what actually had happened to him was he flipped over backwards in a trailer. This horse will do anything you ask him to if he just has a little bit of time to think about it. And he was not given time. He was rushed onto a trailer. He panicked. And so he flipped over backwards in the trailer and then fractured the wither bone there. And he provides for client this just like amazing contrast of like what it means to be broken and simultaneously beautiful, strong, and powerful. And so I think this horse, again, in particular, is just an amazing example of being able to hold space for the wide breadth of whatever it is that a client brings in. I'll even do a somatic thing. If I have a client who comes to me and says that they're broken, I'll do a somatic thing with them where I actually have them come to the broken part of Bocelli and I'll actually have them kind of like brush the broken part of Bocelli off, and kind of like really like maybe like think about the fact that their hand and their touch is actually like healing Bocelli and healing him from the trauma that he had when he was being asked to get onto the trailer. And that is also like simultaneously like so powerful. It brings up a lot of emotion. People are certainly much more comfortable being nurturing and kind to an animal than they are to themselves. And so if I can kind of crack that armor, like I'm not going to be kind to myself, I refuse to believe I am broken, I can kind of crack that armor through the animal, and I can be like, okay, well, like you can't do this for you, and I might not necessarily use that language, but you're this is not happening right now for you, and so like do you think that this is something that we can do for Bocelli? And of course, like the answer is always yes, right? It's always yes. And so it gives them this somatic experience of being able to do that, and they actually get to feel what that feels like. And then, like I said, he provides like such an amazing presence and response for people that it's just healing in and of itself.
It's beautiful to see. I could see the horse walk in, and then I looked at his expressions. It was just miraculous to see.
So yeah, so it sounds like you noticed Bocelli dropping in, and then you noticed Liam dropping in simultaneously. Did the rest of you guys notice that too? Yeah. It's a pretty amazing thing to witness. And depending on what's going on and whether or not I'm familiar with the client, or I have like a sense of like where this might go, which horses of course like always trick me, I typically will kind of position my body like right here, just so that I can kind of like hold space for Bocelli just in case he needs it. And then I can kind of like help him, like if he's feeling a lot of energy from over here, I'll kind of like help him and direct him and guide him. But once it happens, once the shift happens, it's actually quite remarkable to see, and you can really truly see it like on both of them. And again, I typically watch the horse first, and then I'll look to my client. Yeah. And you chose not to stand behind him. What was that about?
I think I still have that like subliminal fear of getting totally kicked by him, but I know it's kind of a silly one, but I think I'm just kind of working up, and I was like, I think he would feel more comfortable if I felt comfortable.
Yeah,
So I was
no,
like,
good
all right,
point.
we'll approach it,
Good point. Yeah, and just, even the choice of that and just giving them some space and time to kind of like process that and think about it, right? All emotion serves a purpose, right? And so like even if you feel like it's like not necessarily a realistic fear, right? Even though you're like, she said it's fine to stand back there, but you're like, I don't want to. But like fear actually helps us, right? Because it protects us from danger, and it stops us from doing things like standing directly behind a horse or whatever it might be. And so that might be where I would go with that, is just kind of talking about that. And I might kind of like draw some parallels. So when he's talking about, the fear of, he's basically said, I'm afraid I might be missing something if I don't do stuff. Now I'm going to take that back, I'm going to connect that, and then we're going to go into the fear there of missing something. And depending on how the session goes, I may actually be like, are you open to the prospect of facing that fear and actually standing behind Bocelli?
Yeah, wow, okay.
Right, you don't have
Yeah,
to.
okay, I was like, if you want, we can dive in.
But like I can ask that question, like, are you open to this as a possibility, right? Like, and wouldn't that be interesting if he was like, yeah, I'll give it a shot, let's do it, right? And then he goes back there and he's like got this fear of missing out, and now he's like, not only am I not missing out, I am like standing right in the face of my perceived danger.
Totally.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it.
What a thrill ride.
Yeah.
Stand behind a horse. Like I want to point this out about this horse. So this horse lives in a herd. He has significant relationships. He has other horses he is incredibly attached to. So he's very attached to Brave One. He's attached to Chuck. He's attached to Dave a little bit here and there, but not as much as the others. But what I want you to notice is that this horse has no anxiety about the fact that he's been removed from his herd. And on top of it, the fact that we're all here with him and holding space. Notice where he is in the round pen and where he chooses to stand. So this horse loves to hold space and be present for people. Absolutely loves it. And I'll do groups, and we'll sit in a circle in the round pen. and he will usually kind of like position himself like right in the center of the round pen.
Wow.
The only time I've had him not do that is I did a group with unhoused women, and that was really interesting because we were all just sitting in chairs around the round pen, and I was anticipating that he was going to be coming in the center because that's his typical behavior. But interestingly enough, he positioned himself directly behind one of the clients. And I'm just kind of noticing this, and I'm doing the group, and I'm, you know, da 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 da. And then she talks about the idea of being homeless, and she was like, yeah, and I'm just constantly having to watch my back all the time.
Wow.
And I was like, oh, there he is, standing right there, right behind her, in an effort to like help her to kind of like release that stress. Like, I'm back here, I have your back, you don't need to worry, and you can actually like participate in the group. And that's the only time I've ever seen this horse do that. Never seen him do that any other time. Yeah, he's incredible. Yeah, this horse is amazing, except if you want to do his feet.
All right, come here, Bocelli. We're doing this. Like and subscribe to our channel on YouTube. We'll see you guys soon.
Phoebe!